All right, where do we begin? Well, we already had an unexpected beginning, right? But of course, I want to talk with FIFA World Cup. Now, I'm not going to be a fraud. I'm not a soccer gal. All right. I appreciate those who love the game. I really do. I respect those who love the game. I respect these incredible athletes who play the game. I just can't get into the game. I'm not going to sound like everybody else. I'm not going to do a pile-on situation. I know Argentina didn't have a shot on goal, and I watched for the first 90 minutes of regulation. You know, I'm a hockey gal. I just don't understand that. That's just, there's no flow to the game. They say it's a beautiful game, but until they clean up the embellishments, the stoppages, the clock mismanagement, the adding time, and I don't understand it. I don't care how many analysts explain it to me. I don't understand it. I just don't, this just seems to be theatrical. There's more theatrics than actual game playing. There were moments, obviously we had to wait a long time for those moments. They came at the end and they were something. But let's remember this, the goalkeeper, Martinez, I think his name is, for Argentina was sensational. I think he made like 10 saves. That's kind of a big deal in a World Cup match, especially World Cup final. This could have been a blowout. So it wasn't like the score was not an indication of the dominance by Spain. Spain just was Spain. I mean, we knew what they were. We found out what they were. I'm not going to dissect it for you. All I know is this. I got a lot of things accomplished during regulation time of this soccer match. I did my laundry. I took out my dog Babs a couple of times. I cleaned out my closet. I'm serious. It was all in the background, the game. I didn't miss anything. The only time I stood in front of that TV was when regulation time ended. Then I was like, okay. But it still wasn't like hockey where it was sudden death. You know, there was just too much minutia. But I'm not going to keep it on the negative. I want to turn to the positive of this. And there's a lot of positive. Let's talk about the FIFA World Cup, this amazing event being in our country, in the United States of America. 39 days. It was a success. Why was it a success? Because what I loved is how it brought, I'm not going to be corny, this is what I saw. This has brought the country, this brought the world together. There were so many people who came to our country to watch these matches from all over the world. And let me tell you, they heard horror stories about this country. They heard people are mean here. They heard awful things about the United States of America. But what did they find out? The exact opposite. Sadly, they were believing what their news media outlets in their respective countries were telling them about this country. And then they found out those respective media outlets were wrong. We Americans love our sports. We Americans are passionate about our sports. We as Americans learn to love other sports and be just as passionate. Hey, it was fun for, the U.S. men's national team for a while until they laid an egg against Belgium. We were all in. But then some of us still lingered after the U.S. was eliminated. But the point is, a lot of people who came from other countries to come here to watch the World Cup left to go home, and they had a different perspective, I believe, of this country and the people and Americans that are in it. And that, I think, and that I know, was a positive of having the FIFA World Cup here, at least in the States, and obviously in other places. And, I live in Los Angeles. I used to live in New York. MetLife Stadium, although they call it New York, New Jersey Stadium now, that really threw me off. It's Giant Stadium, actually, really. And then, of course, SoFi Stadium. The people were loving it out here. So it was wonderful. That was what impressed me. I'll tell you another thing I take away from it. After this was over, the 1-0 victory by Spain, congrats to Spain. Seeing Lionel Messi after this ended, so emotional, looking around, tears coming to his eyes, crying, all of us not knowing if this is the last time we're going to see, let's face it, the greatest of all time in this sport, one of the greatest athletes of all time in any sport. Is this it? for the 39-year-old Lionel Messi. But watching him get teary-eyed, really, I was blown away by that. And I just want to read you a quote. I don't have the audio, but I just want to, I think it's worth reading. You know, what he said, a lot of things after the loss, but this one really hit me. He goes, sometimes football gives you the perfect ending, and sometimes it gives you a painful chapter. But I learned that greatness is not only measured by lifting trophies, it is also how you stand when your heart is broken. I mean, that resonated with me. And he said what really broke him up, and I think it was the trigger point for him, is when the fans, the Argentina fans, the Argentines that filled that stadium yesterday were chanting his name, how much they love this man and what he has meant to them. But it gets even better. That's not all that had me close to tears. We all heard about the young 19-year-old from Spain, Yamal. We saw that cute picture, by the way, of a young Messi bathing a younger Yamal when he was a toddler. That was a crazy picture. But at the end, Yamal, when he should have been celebrating a lot with his teammates, which he did, he looked over and he saw his idol, Lionel Messi, broken up in tears. And this is what he said post-game. Yamal, he goes, I grew up idolizing Messi, and winning the World Cup should have been the happiest moment of my life. But when I saw Leo standing there after the final whistle, my heart broke for a few seconds. I forgot we were rivals. I just saw the man who made me fall in love with football. So I went up to him because no legend should leave a stage like that feeling alone. That was Yamal, who went over to Messi and gave him a hug. Leo was actually sitting down, just really distraught. And when he saw young Yamal come over to him, he stood up and they embraced. And these are the scenes, these are the moments that I will remember from this World Cup. Bringing the world together over a sporting event, and then these words, these scenes, and there was so many other storylines, but these resonated with me. And that's what, isn't this why we love sports? We don't have to have a dog in the fight to understand why this is so important and so significant, and why the years might go by, the decades might go by, but we still love our sports. And there are always new stories to hang our hats on. And this was something. And I really hope Messi sticks around, because he's something else. It's too bad his team didn't support him. They didn't put him in any position for him to make an impact or make this a game. But congrats to Spain. But here's another takeaway from this whole FIFA World Cup that I want to get into. I want to get into San Francisco 49ers tight end George Kittle. Kudos to George Kittle, one of my favorite players. George Kittle spoke out a few days ago, maybe a week ago, while this thing was going on. And he said, listen, these NFL owners, they're replacing the turf with natural grass in these stadiums for these World Cup players. Why are they doing that? So they won't get hurt. Why are they doing that for NFL players? Why is there a single stadium, and now here's me paraphrasing, why is there a single stadium with the fake stuff, with the turf, where there's scientific evidence that these players in the NFL have gotten hurt because of the turf and because they don't play on natural grass? And George Kittle was the first to really speak out on it during this World Cup extravaganza. And there are many players that have followed in line with George Kittle who have since spoken up. The Caleb Williams of the world, Patrick Queen. There's so many others, Jonathan Taylor. So many players have spoken up and saying this is not fair. And Tucker Kraft also, Solomon Thomas. I mean, I could go on and on. Laramie Tunzel, all speaking out. And then the NFL Players Association, they spoke out, as they should, to help their players and support their players. I'm going to read you their quote. You see it on the screen from the Players Association. The temporary installation of natural grass field for the World Cup is a choice by certain NFL team owners to do for soccer players what they refuse to do for NFL players. It's no longer a question of capability. The technology exists, the expertise exists, and the resources exist to install the high-level grass fields that our players overwhelmingly prefer. So they used to make an excuse, as George Kittle mentioned, as well as the Players Association, that, oh, it can't be done. It cannot be done. It can be done. It exists. I'm with these players. I'm with the Players Association. I don't care how much money it costs. Don't you want to protect your investment? You know what these players make. I mean, it's not NBA salaries, but it's NFL salaries. It's your quarterbacks. It's your running backs. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I'm not an NFL owner, but I hope they wake up. Am I holding my breath? I am not holding my breath. But I thought that was important to bring out.